I'm Jungwoo Kim. I'm worked in Samsung 17 years, and I'm taking care about the GPU for Samsung Mobile and also leading the GameDev team. So let's try to begin the introduction. So we are a game dev team. The game dev team is for supporting game developer. There's multiple kind of things to support game developers. We also can do some real help, like working in the game developer offices. Also, we can deliver some remote support, like the email, delivering some guidance, and also sharing information about the device spec. We also do the device loaner program. All kind of thing will be covered by Dohyun later on. But before that time, I really want to know why we are not trying to do this. So we are a phone maker, and we are manufacturing a smartphone. Most of cases, Android platform. And also, we are selling our devices in global. But what we are really care about is not only for selling the devices, but also the experiences our customer is now feeling. Within that devices, as a window, they feel the many kind of experiences within the application and contents. And one of the most important experiences we are care now is the gaming. So the gaming experience is one of the hardest experiences achieving certain level. And also people is really familiar with the console game graphics and fidelity, and also have a really friendly with any other VR or AR in the, not just mobile, also the desktop level experience already had. So that expectation is really make hard to us to bring that a similar level of experiences in our phone devices. The limitation in the mobile, that is coming from our form factor, because that the desktop, that is something like maybe the smallest one in the desktop model. And that Note 9 device is that most of cases the largest form factor in the smartphone level. Considering the chipset SoC for CPU, GPU line, the key hardware IP perspective, also that SoC in the laptop corner, that is including all CPU, GPU, and other hardware. But the other things in the CPU and GPU for PC and console is really several times more huge areas now consuming. Even with that peak performance perspective, we are really tracking and chasing to achieving the console level performance. But even we have a peak performance is just reaching to the certain level that is not enough to maintaining that as a sustainably, because all kind of limitation also coming from the form factor is not only the power, but also the thermal and heating problem. So optimization is really important in mobile. And we are not really considering just shrinking down the quality and achieving the performance, but we really want to resolving the fundamental issues on the technology. So the new technology is really key. So we are really considering to bring the Vulkan and 64-bit and multi-core, multi-thread rendering as soon as possible in the wide ecosystem in mobile gaming. So what Samsung is now doing is the helping developer. So most of the cases, game developer really occupied by maintaining and developing their contents. The spending hours to improving the technology and adopting the new tech thing is really hard. So what Samsung is now doing is we are really want to help the game developer, not spending their time, but we do, and help them and make more better experiences to their contents, and also increasing more fidelity on their contents. That is the Galaxy GameDev. So let's quick recap from 2016 to the 2018 what we've done. So most of cases during these 3 years, we're focusing on bringing Vulkan as more common. So we contributing to the Vulkan working group in the Cronus, and we also really work together and spending our resources and time to publishing that 1.0 as soon as possible. We also work together with the GPU vendor like ARM and Qualcomm to bring that GPU driver and shader compiler for supporting Vulkan 1.0 right on time. And also we work with a game engine company like Epic Games for bringing these features not just for that one single application, but for the more wider coverage of applications. So game engine should be that one of the solutions for that. So we work together with Epic Games to bring Vulkan RHI into the UE4. We also need to show the feasibility of the Vulkan is really beneficial. So we work with the Epic Games to developing the Protostar cool demo and show that on our S700 backstage. And 2016, we introducing the Galaxy game the first time in our Samsung Develop Conference. And we also did a multiple investigation and research related with multiple application area like Boyao and also UI. And also during that, we consider the game is one of the key areas we have to chase. So we deliver the game tuner, game launcher, and game tools. Tomorrow, 12:45 p.m., this same room, the Samsung Galaxy, late about the Galaxy Store and the game launcher, the session will cover more deeper this. And we also deliver some device-side game optimizations. The game optimization service is one of that. We also start to supporting the market game. We also supported the tool like RenderDoc. RenderDoc was not supporting Android and also Vulkan and GLES. And from that 2017, we contributed with Google to enable Android support in RenderDoc and also adding the Vulkan and GLES feature. And now RenderDoc is supporting that. And many more followers is now supporting that and contributing a lot. An example, ARM. And we not just the flagship devices, also the mass devices, we are trying to deliver more the number of the Vulkan devices in the market. And also that one good thing is that mass product is raw performance devices get more benefit with the Vulkan in it. And also we work together with the Google Play about emphasizing this Vulkan game in the Android ecosystem as the high-fidelity Android game program. And also we blessing the developer community with a multiple event, multiple technical session. And now we are here. So one, two quick update about the several things. So we work for the game developer. We work for the game developer game contents. And to support that, we are now adding more solution approaches, and also features that. Let's talk about the game optimization a little deeper. So optimizing the game is really we are trying to do. The 4 key area we think in game optimization is coming from the GPU driver, the game engine, and also tool and SDK. And yes, finally, the developer support for their game itself. So we are trying to bring some update for each of them. And one first thing is about GPU driver. So the console and PC developers always say the mobile device, the GPU driver quality and performance is really poor. That's true, because we are the first people who feel that as on our skin. And we also really want to improve that, not only for just the performance, also both of them. So about the performance, in example, we are working closely with the GPU vendor like ARM and Qualcomm. In example, this is the one worst case scene from the Fortnite in the GPU bounding scene. And one frame is taking the 29 millisecond on March driver for Mali. And during our 6 months collaborating on the Trondheim, Norway, on Mali team, we did a camp around 5 or 6 months. And then November time, we decreasing the millisecond for that frame from the 29 to the 22 millisecond. That's a really good achievement. And we shipping that driver for our S10. And also not only did optimizing and improving performance of the driver, but also we have to deliver that right on time to our customer devices. But the ML OTA is not that really good answer for that, because that takes the time, that take a cost, and also that have to dealing with some policy and also some other complicated relationship with the carrier and so on. So updatability itself is really key of improving the quality of the driver. So we work together with Google to improve that from the 2 years ago, and now we are really close to delivering a really new cool update. The GPU driver in mobile devices will happen this soon. That is mostly you think that what you can do in the PC, like install some EXE package of including driver. There's most of the similar thing you can do with the Play APK install for updating the driver. So we are keep to working with the game engine companies like Epic Games. And during the fortnight collaboration, we made a really bunch of a number of optimization for Vulkan RHI. And that all kind of contribution is now integrated into their UE4 21. So now the more number of the game developers utilize that contribution for their game content development. And also we are trying to bring the tool and SDK, and this stuff will be covered by some other session. This today, the same room, the 5 p.m., we also will have that session about tool and SDK. At that session, not only our own tool and SDK, but also the adaptive performance, we are collaborating with Unity, it will be covered. So the other two, Koli Kyoguni and Junshikong, will cover the tool and SDK, and also Unity debugger will cover adaptive performance. So everyone know about the foldable devices now coming, and also we care about the gaming experiences on our new foldable devices, Galaxy Fold. And this also will be covered during the session today, the room 3022 in the Google joint session with Samsung. And you can see more information during that session too. Let's talk about the partner collaboration we made before. This is kind of the story about the real game.
cool video, isn't it? So we have many partners from the big company to the like small indie game companies. So I'm Dohyun Kim from the Samsung Electronics. I'm senior engineer in the GameDev. I have experience about the collaboration with many companies. So GameDev exists to support game developers to make some better experience to user. So we are more than the 30 people in over the world, like USA, UK, Ukraine, China, Korea. So we work together very tightly, not only the online but also in offline also. So first time people heard about the Samsung work with the game company, they don't have any idea what kind of the Samsung do. But we have some program. So firstly, we optimize game engine. So if we optimize game engine, so user can have some benefit because everyone who use that engine get better performance. And we also provide some Galaxy device to the game company. Then game company can use that, have some checking the performance and checking the issue. That means Galaxy users also can have benefit. And we are kind of the expert about the profiling and debugging. So we can share about the profile information to the game developers. So, and we also teach how to use that. And we have many remote and on-site tech support. So let's check the on-site tech support case by case. So what we do, and I share some optimization idea during the camp. First one is Final Fantasy Pocket Edition. Recently, that one is ported to the Nintendo Switch also. So camp was located in the Okinawa in Japan. We worked together like 4 months. So we got 60 FPS in the S8. So Scale Unix and Summer Studio very glad. So we have many developer sessions in the many components. So I want to talk about how to check the FPS. So usually we check the performance almost end of the camp. So actually most of the scenario is same, content is same, and we check the same throttling case. After that, only different thing is the before is without our optimization, and after means with our optimizations. So during the camp, we usually do optimize game engine and optimize content side also. And we handle all of the issue about that, like crash and display error. And I want to share some optimized point. So if we use the correct pipeline barrier, you can have some benefit about the GPU side. So you can easily find in the web. We already have session last year, GDC and SDC, you can find. And sometimes engine core begin random pass without any through core in there. After that, it just called the begin random pass. After core, it end random pass, but there is no through core. In the case, it wasted the GPU usage. So what we changed is we made actual begin random pass is happening just before the through core. After they change, there's no empty random pass. Next, one of King. So it's quite famous AOS game in the China market. So they earned money $1 billion during the just last month. So we got 53 FPS in the even S7. You know S7 is first Vulkan support device. So we got 53 without any issues. So we use single stretch ring buffer. So during the game, it's not allocate buffer anymore. And sometimes you need to delete the Vulkan object in another thread. But delete object is not need to call immediately. So we make some low priority about that. CPU have some time to learn more about the render thread and RHS thread that could be improved. Next, Fortnite. I don't need to explain about this game. You already know about that. So this project is quite important to us because if we do many optimized things during the Fortnite, every game company can benefit. So actually, we have many optimized points to do, and most of the optimized point is implemented the 4.21 in the Unreal Engine, we do make some better rendering performance and reduce the init time and memory and reduce the heatsink also. So I want to share some init time idea, reduce init time idea. So firstly, left one is to make some high priority in the create pipeline thread, and right thing is parallelly working about the create pipeline. So upper one is the original and bottom one is the we make optimize. The firstly create pipeline working in the little core. Little core is best, so we move to the using the big core. And right thing is the blue box is the one create pipeline. So create pipeline is working in the 4 different threads, but each thread is waiting each other. So we make some parallel. So after this, we can benefit like 50% of the init time. Next 100 Soul, developed by the 113, is not big company. Anyway, their game style is quite new, so there is some sensation in the Korean market. So we optimize Bloom post-processing. The original Bloom post-processing is need to 8 render paths. We reduce 2 render paths. So we have some gain about the GPU side. And we optimize render path load operation. So during the Bloom post-processing, all of the draw core drew same size of the render target, and all of the draw core draw with the OPEC. So it don't need to call big render path with the load operation. So we change to the don't care. After that, the GPU don't need to access cache. So we have some benefit over the GPU side also. Next, PUBG Mobile is also quite famous. So we have camp for like 4 weeks. So it has CPU occlusion logic implement by the Tencent. But every frame they call lock, unlock texture. And it takes time to wait. So we change it to use the 3 frames before texture. After that, there is no need to wait anymore. So there is some CPU side optimization. And simply we enable the RHI thread for that. So it's also kind of reduce the CPU usage. Next, TROA. Next month, TROA is released in the Korea market. It's quite high quality MMORPG. That's why it has 35 FPS, even the S10. So we have many optimized things. We make some 56. So as you know, the rendering order is quite important. So if you draw the nearest one first, so there is some benefit about the GPU side. We made that. And in the Unreal Engine, so equal updated descriptor set in every draw core. So we made some descriptor set cache, so reduce the updated descriptor set. So this one is the collaboration list from the 2016. We have many done. We have next plan. So if you contact us, we can help to make some better performance. Next, Sangmin will explain more technical things.
Thank you. Is it clear? Yep. Thank you. Hi, I'm Sangmin, the software engineer of the Galaxy GameDev member. And in this time, I would like to more deep dive in the technical things. But before that, I want to talk about the Vulkan. So briefly, so Vulkan is the next generation graphics API, but that does not mean that it's kind of magical things to reduce the GPU load remarkably. But it has some explicit and lightweight functions, so it has more potential power for optimization, like reducing the CPU overhead or the memory bandwidth. So that's why we more focus about the Vulkan while we optimizing the Android games. And in this time, we prepare about 3 items we want to share about about the optimizing the descriptor sets and query management and utilizing the multi-surfaces. So let's see about the descriptor set first. If you're rendering the objects, you need to set the uniform data. So in OpenGL case, it has some simple process like binding program and call the GL uniform float or metrics for the updating the data and binding the texture. But what about the Vulkan case? Actually, unfortunately, Vulkan has some complicated process. Like we need to first define how many descriptor type in the pipeline stage has. And we need to allocate the descriptor set. And we need to prepare the information structure, how many the VK buffer and image is needed. And after that, we need to update the descriptor set using the VK update descriptor set function with the information. And finally, we can now bind the descriptor set on the command buffer for using. So it's quite confusing things, so let's forget all about that. But please remember that we need to allocate the VK buffer. So we need to VK buffer for each object for the destination of the uniform data. And if you just render the idle scene which has static objects or view direction, there's no change on the object information, so just allocating the VK buffers and updating the descriptor set in the initial time of the application, and on the runtime, just binding the descriptor set for the draw is enough. But actually, in the real case, the game has the complicated and dynamic scenes, so we cannot predict how many objects shows up or destroyed. So that means whenever that the object is created or destroyed, we need to allocating and releasing the VK buffer frequently, and this should make a huge block on the performance. So what should we do? One of the solution is using the offset. So imagine that if you have some memory manager which has a huge global buffer for the uniform data, we can copy that data in there with the range and offset. So we can put that two variable in the VK descriptor buffer info structure, but those structure is a part of VK write descriptor set. So if you change some contents of that VK write descriptor set structure, you should update the descriptor set using the VK update descriptor set function. So with the global buffer, we are free from the problem of the blocking performance, which related the allocating and releasing new VK buffer. But we still need to call the VK update descriptor set for every draw call because the offset is always changed. So those duplicated API call makes another bottleneck on the CPU side. So more improved solution is utilizing the dynamic offset. So in this case, we can just set the offset in the VK descriptor set buffer info structure as 0. So there's no more change on the VK writer descriptor set. And that means now we don't need to call the VK descriptor set in the every draw calls. And we can offer that rear the offset when we bind the descriptor set on the command buffer with the pdynamic offset variable parameters. So it's quite simple. So I prepared some simplified image. The most left one using the allocating and releasing the VK buffer for each object, so which makes a huge performance degradations. And it also need to call the VK update descriptor set also. So we can free from the blocking bottlenecks when we just make some a global buffer. But if just using the offset, we need to call the VK update descriptor set. So, but at the last one, utilize the dynamic offset when we bind the descriptor set on the command buffer, and it's really simple. So in here, I prepared the two demos, which the upper one is using the VK update descriptor set for each draw calls, and the lower one is about using the dynamic offset version. So in here, you can see that the performance is increased about to 26% from the 19 to 25 or 24. So it's quite huge differences. And you can see that if there's some huge CPU bottleneck, we cannot utilize the GPU powers. So more deeply in the systrace, which is quite great tool for the investigating the CPU side, you can see the VK descriptor set, VK update descriptor set function consume about 26 milliseconds. So after removing that, you can reduce the total frame time about 63 milliseconds. The next one we want to talk about is about the query management. If your application need to draw code a lot of objects, but if there are many objects which is occluded by other occluder, the occlusion calling could help to reduce both CPU and GPU side. So for that, Vulkan supports the VK query pools and occlusion query type. So how can we use that? First, we need to create the query pools and the queries with the draw calls. And then the last, we need to get the result of the queries and reset them for reusing. So imagine that if we just allocating a huge global pool, just acquire the queries and get some results and reset them. So this process is done by quite a sequential way, but in real case, there could be some object who will not take their results for some reason, like some of object just disappeared or destroyed. So this leads some fragmentation on the query pool, which is negative things on the performance perspective. So why this kind of the fragmentation is bad for the performance is actually fragmentation could block the utilizing Vulkan API more efficiently. In fact, we can handle the multiple and sequential queries in one API, like first query index and query counts. But if there's so many fragmentation on the query pool, we should call those two API multiple times. And as you expected that, the multiple and duplicate API call makes some bottleneck on the CPU side. So we try to change the query management logics, like using dedicated query pool per each frames, not using the global one. So in that case, the dedicated query pool doesn't have the fragmentation, so we can handle the whole queries in that query pool with the one API call. So in this pseudocode, you can see that if we just allocating global query pool, we need to get the query results for the number of the object time in the one frame in the worst case. But if we have some dedicated query pool, we can just get the query, whole of the query results and reset the query pool in the beginning of the frames. So it's quite neat. And let's see how this change can make some differences on the performance. So here, the upper one just used the global query pool, and the lower one is using the dedicated query pool. And in here, you can see that FPS was about 16, and it goes up to 21. So almost 30% is increased. And in systrace, you can see that if we can get query pool results consume about the 10 milliseconds, then we can reduce that with the one API call, so that the more improved version just take about 1 milliseconds. So this kind of optimization, like descriptor set or query management, can reduce the CPU drops, and this could make some boost up the GPU powers and your application performance as well. So the last one is about the subpath. Subpath is a part of the render path, and render path is collection of attachment and some states and subpaths and subpath dependencies. So what does the subpath really do is subpath can read the data from the attachment as input attachment type, and it can write into the attachment also, and it can perform the multi-sample reserve. So let's see about the input attachment first. The great thing about the input attachment is we can save the memory bandwidth for the removing the load and store. For example, about the default rendering, if we just single subpass in the one render pass, we should store the render result in the texture. And then the next render pass for the shading, we need to read back the memory for the texture sampling. So in this case, we need 3 stores and 3 load, and this will consume a huge memory bandwidth, which is really costly on the mobile environment. But if we just utilize a multipass in the one render pass, we can transfer the data as the input attachment, so we don't need to store and read back the memory. So in here, I prepared 2 demos which use just single subpass and multipass. And as you can see, the single subpass version already consumed the GPU power about the 100%, but the FPS is just 3. But after we just utilize the multi-subpasses and reduce the memory bandwidth, you can see we can boost up about the 8 times faster. So if your application have some pipeline which has huge memory bandwidth, or if there's some unindented memory readback, multi-subpass with the input attachment can one of the solutions. And one more thing I want to talk about is about the reserve multi-sample. So while the optimizing and testing the Android game, we try to reduce the render target size for reducing the GPU load. But keeping the quality, we try to use the MSAA. So in MSAA, we usually draw the object in the multi-sampled image, and then in the next render pass, like for example, post-process, we need to texture sampling. But directly sampling the multi-sample image consume the high memory bandwidth, which is expensive. So typically, we just draw the object in the multi-sampled image and reserve them into single sample image. And then in the next pass, we can sample that reserved image. So the reserve is done by the subpass. And Vulkan, we can reserve the color attachment to the single sampled image. But there's another attachment called depth stencil attachment. So unfortunately, Vulkan cannot handle the depth stencil case because spec said that the reserve attachment can just handle the color attachment. So it is quite a huge problem that we cannot handle the depth stencil attachment because there's no API. So after we figure out this problem, we proposed this issue to Kronos, and in the latest version of the Vulkan, Kronos announced the new extension, the depth stencil reserve. So now developer can reserve the depth stencil also, and we also put some effort to make some new advanced feature like this. So we are the Galaxy GameDev, and we are working for the many bunch of game developers who are really eager to develop hi-fi Android game with a new technology and who want to find some contribution with clear evidence. So we assure that with us, the game developer can provide a great experience to game users. And not only the game developer, we also work with platform, engine, GPU vendors developers like Google, Epic Games, Unity, ARM, Qualcomm, and so on. So with them, we will try to spread out our finding, which could help the game developers. And we are always aimed to be a pioneer who can change the paradigm of the Android gaming sooner. So if you guys have some interest to develop a fancy game with the cutting-edge technology, please contact us, who are one of the best partners. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, how was the session? So we, many cases we said people, this is not that dream or something. This is something, the real thing you can get. And people asking about the what is the number, and we honestly share the number, then they also don't even believe that. And what is code? So we are now trying to do, delivering the fact and numbers and also code. Like everything we can show is something like that. We covered this during this session, and hopefully you can have the right understanding about what Samsung is now trying to do. Is not we are not saying that we can cover all entire the game thing, but we are really want to make a quick action than any other company in the mobile and show the people about the feasibility of new technology and help that key partners who really want to take a list and get a good, really big achievement, and also show the other developer and also help the other developer to do this in later time. So for that, we really want to have the support from the other companies too, and also want to get more positive position from the real game developer like you. And this is really, we really want to say that. Thank you very much for this session, the joining. And also, any question you have? I like this. So this is the right feedback of the perfect session. So because the content is perfect, so you don't have to say anything. But anyway, yeah, please show your ticket. So this is the Galaxy S10 Plus, the Verizon model. Yes. So the lucky draw for this one, for each of the sponsor, the Samsung's own sponsor session, this is the first session. And this 5 p.m., our tool and SDK session also will offer this one, another one too. And tomorrow we also will have our store and also service business session in 12:45 p.m. in the same room. That session will offer a little smaller, but that is also cool, the Galaxy S10e. So this is a plus. So you guys have all your ticket? Okay. I'm mixing things. Why the number is that huge? Because that I cannot see it as more than 170, but the number is more than 170. So the number who have the ticket number 172. Okay, cool, perfect. Can you show your ticket?